The movie begins as Josie Potenza is held and being told her rights in a police station. She gives up her right to remain silent and starts telling her story. She starts to confess that she and her husband, Tony, have been having fights, and they were both at fault. She knew he was seeing his girlfriends, and he knew that she knew. He was drinking heavily one night, and she decides that if he won't stop lying to her, she must stop lying to him. She goes to Jake, his lover, and he asks her to leave her husband and that he will take care of her, but she tells him that she doesn't want to keep seeing him anymore before she leaves. At home, she apologizes to Tony and asks him to stop drinking in exchange for her being nice to him. She also insists that he take her on a trip, but he tells her the timing is wrong. Nevertheless, he affectionately agrees with what she says. Inside the cabin on their vacation, Josie prepares dinner and she goes to call Tony. She finds him sleeping and beside him is an empty bottle. The next morning, angry, Josie was making tea when she found a gun in the drawer. Out in the cabin, Tony is having a phone talk about work where he gets angry, and Josie tells him it's better for the both of them if he just leaves and she stays. She then went out for a drink that night. She notices Cole playing pool, and she nervously pays her bill and leaves. As she was driving to the cabin in the dark, she ended up on a road that leads to two ways. While contemplating, her car stops working. She hears animal sounds in the woods and starts walking away from the car. Soon, a car shows up and Cole gets off the car, who then offers her a ride. After accepting his offer and his coat, they end up at her cabin. He tells her he'll come back tomorrow to fix her car after he walks her to the door.
I'll come back tomorrow and
The next day, after Cole fixed her car, she asks what she owes him, and he asks her for dinner. Josie then tells him she's married and that Tony is on a business trip. He then tells her that he will pick her up that night, ignoring what she just told him. After dinner, they were dancing at the bar when Cole started to kiss her, and she pushed him away. Josie then starts to tell him about how she met Tony. She was a 17-year-old high school dropout who used to work in a grocery store as a cashier. One day, Tony walks in, and they see each other. On their first date, he asks her to marry him, and she says yes. Cole makes her look like she loves her husband's money, while he loves her in front of the waitress. He suggests that she divorce him and get half his money, but she tells him she signed a paper that won't let her take him money if they divorce. Cole then starts to get into her head, making her confess that she hates him and she wishes he was dead. Cole continues to persuade her and tells her that he will kill Tony for her, which makes her upset, and they both leave the bar, driving in silence. In the car, Cole starts touching her weirdly and talking sinisterly before he speeds up. Unable to make him stop, Josie turns off the headlights once they reach her cabin and jumps out of the car. Running inside the cabin, she grabs the gun she found in the drawer. She shot at him, but the bullet only grazed his cheeks before she saw him leave. After some time at their house in LA, it was Tony's birthday, and they celebrated with friends. After the dinner, Tony thanked and apologized to Josie about the vacation. He tells her that she's the only good thing that happened to him, and that he wants them to be like how they were when they first started dating. As Tony was driving home, he stopped to get cash from the ATM when it started to pour rain. In his car, he calls Josie and tells her he will be taking her out to dinner and to wait for him wearing her fancy dress. The moment he hangs up, Cole shows up behind him and makes him drive to a park while pointing a gun at him. He shoots him in the face, but his gun gets jammed, which causes Tony to make a run for his life. But Cole wouldn't give up. He chases him around the playground and kills him. At home, it's already been an hour past the time Tony promised to take her out. Josie finds the sliding door open, and she closes it as she hears sounds from inside the house. Assuming it was Tony, she calls him out, but she finds a gun on the bed. Soon, Cole grabs her from behind and starts to confess what he has done to Tony in the park. He starts telling her about the night they had dinner and how they planned the murder together. He kept talking about the waitress who heard her asking him to kill her husband. Cole was telling Josie that he wanted 30 grand by Friday when the police knocked on the door. He warns her not to tell them about him and makes them assume it's a carjacking that killed her husband as he makes himself at home in his bedroom. Josie was taken to the police station where she had a breakdown when she saw a woman in handcuffs. Once she was calm, they started to question her about Tony, and she denied knowing anything of anyone who might want to kill him. Detective Dan assumed that the killer could be Josie, or that the black man who was seen in the camera where Tony was using the ATM. Detective Ron gets very offended when he hears that Dan is accusing them both because of their race. Detective Ron, who is sympathetic, then drives Josie to her house and tells her to call him if she doesn't feel safe.
Take care of yourself.
Josie was watching the news, which was reporting about Tony's death, convinced that the incident was a carjack. Cole was also watching it from his hotel room. While the news was still hot, Jake, her old lover, came by to see Josie. She tells him to leave before telling him what happened at the cabin with Cole, how he killed Tony, and that he wants the money by Friday. Jake believes her and asks her what they should do. She decides to pay Cole, but she doesn't want Jake to get involved, so she makes him leave. As Jake makes it to his house, he is welcomed by Cole, who then threatens to end their plan since he's already in contact with Josie. But Jake tells him that they both need each other and asks him why he ditched their original plan. The plan was to kill Tony in the mountains and rob their cabin without Cole having to talk to Josie at all. Then, after 6 months, Josie would have married Jake, and he would have given Cole any amount of money. But Cole decides to have a little fun with Josie and changes the plan on his own. Jake then explains that they can still get back to the original plan and tells Cole how much he needs it, but Cole mocks him, saying he doesn't have a dime. He then fights with Jake when he confronts him about raping Josie. At the police station, chaos was happening as the black man who was accused of killing Tony turned out to be a well-respected man and threatened to sue the whole department. Detective Dan then goes on to suspect Josie once again. They were then called to interrogate a woman called Nora Smith, who turns up with Josie's naked Polaroids. She then tells them she is an ex-wife of Jake, and she found the pictures in Jake's car and accused him of killing Tony to get Josie and their money because he is broke.
Josie doesn't owe me alimony.
Josie went to see Bill Adolfi, Tony's lawyer. He tells her that Tony didn't leave any will and kept everything in his name, which means that she can't access any of the money, except for the car and the jewelry she has now. Bill promises her that she is going to be a very rich woman eventually. She then went to see Tony at his funeral, where his body lay open in the casket. After the funeral was done, Nora went to talk to Jake, and she started to trigger him, saying Tony didn't deserve to be killed by the people he trusted. She then tells him she's found the photos from his car. Jake stood, shocked, as the two detectives were taking pictures of him and following his every move from their car, and found him looking at Cole. Cole forces Josie to drive that night to meet him and threatens to kill Jake if she doesn't bring him his money. The detectives saw that happen from a distance and sent their man to follow Cole. Josie gets home and takes her gun with her, as went to sell her pieces of jewelry. In her car, Cole calls and lets her know where they will be meeting. Once she makes it to the place and meets Cole, she reaches under her coat and brings out her gun. She asks him to give her the gun from the cabin. When she was checking his coat that he threw on the ground, 3 teenagers showed up at the alley. While she was distracted, Cole took her gun and started shooting at the kids while holding Josie. He then takes the money from her, but she attacks him and runs. Josie makes it to the main highway road through the woods after escaping Cole's shootings. She crosses to the other side while Cole is unable to catch up with her. He swears he will kill her before she takes her car and goes to see Jake at his restaurant. Josie tells him that Cole tried to kill her and that she is going to the police as she drags him out of the kitchen. While driving to the police station, she tells him that there is no money left for her. When Jake suggests they leave for another country with her, she tells him she won't take the money, even if she was granted it, since it is blood money, and she doesn't want anything to do with that. Then they start screaming at each other when he won't take her to the police. She makes Jake leave the car and takes the keys from him to drive herself. But he stops her and tells her that Cole won't hurt her. Shocked by how he knew Cole's name, she confronts him about it before. She slaps him and starts to run away from him to her house and made a call to the police. At the police station, Detective Dan and Detective Ron discover that Cole is a criminal when they get a call from Josie, but the lines get disconnected as the power also cuts at her house. Soon, Jake shows up at the window and insists that Josie opens the door for him. He was telling her that Cole might be in the house when he got shot in the ear and fell through the window in the house. Cole walks through the broken window and starts searching for Josie. After making sure he went outside, Josie sneaked out from where she hid and took the car keys before she went to the garage. She was fumbling with the keys when Cole saw her from the roof. He jumps down on her and starts to attack her, but she puts an axe in his back and shoots his arm when he approaches her to kill her. She kicks him around until they hear the police siren getting closer. He then starts to tell her to shoot him, but she tells him that the cops will do it and that she's innocent. When he won't cooperate, she repeatedly shoots him until he dies. The police then arrive there and arrest her. After finishing telling what happened, Josie confirms that she is telling the truth. She admits that she loved her husband and wouldn't do anything to hurt him. She confesses that she killed Cole in self-defense. The detectives ask if she has any witnesses to what she just told them, but she has no one. Both Detective Dan and Detective Ron were convinced that she hired Cole to kill Tony, but he slipped up, which led to all this mess. But they soon learned that they weren't allowed to keep Josie without any evidence. Detective Dan then asks to bring Nora in for more questions. Nora confirms to her detectives that Josie doesn't have the brains nor the guts to commit a murder, and that she wouldn't leave Tony for Jake.
Josie's not the type to commit murder.
The movie ends as Josie walks out of the station and gets into Nora's car. Nora starts telling her about her questioning and is amazed at how easily the cops believe the story they made up, indicating that Josie lied from the beginning. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.